Hello and welcome to our ESG series of Instant Insights. I'm Amalia Maiden,
And I'm Martina Raveni.
and this series explores the topic of ESG, discussing why this theme is more than just hype for the future of businesses and taking a brief look into the latest news headlines of interest.
Welcome back, everyone. It's great to have you here with us once again. Today's episode will be focused on AI and, of course, how this theme blends with ESG. Amalia, you must have heard about the recent hype around AI technology and how it's impacted all sorts of markets. With the advent of ChatGPT, the AI chatbot launched last year by OpenAI, paved the way to the current hype surrounding this technology. At the moment, indeed, business leaders are asking themselves whether and how much to invest their resources in AI, divided in a way by hype and hope.
So Marty, what should companies be considering when investing into this technology?
Companies are keen to take advantage of these new capabilities, particularly in areas such as sales, marketing, and customer support. However, there are some inhibiting factors, I would say, that hold back the growth of the AI market. One of them is the ongoing trade dispute between the US and China, which will likely impact technological progress and adoption. But again, we have ethical concerns that will result in new regulations, especially when it comes to the private use of surveillance technology. However, this is our ESG series, so let's look at this through the green lens. Amalia, what do you think about AI and ESG?
Well, AI really has the potential to disrupt the business world, and market trends are telling us that AI really is the future with ChatGPT, as you just mentioned, but also self-driving cars, voice or facial recognition. It has the potential to solve a lot of problems, such as vehicle emissions, traffic congestion, and supply chain sustainability. We've seen that all of these can be related to ESG and can be impacted and solved by AI technologies. But there are also some environmental and social concerns around the impact of AI that we do need to be considering.
What do you mean with this? Can you dig a bit further?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of people are really worried about their job security, and this is pretty understandable. There's a lot of fear around AI replacing skills and replacing jobs that many people rely on to provide incomes around the world. Now, obviously, this is not a new concern. Technology replacing people has been an issue that comes with every industrial revolution. However, with this new AI revolution, it's particularly important that governments ensure that the correct regulation is in place to protect the people and their rights. And then, of course, there's also the environmental impact of AI and the tech that it controls. Energy consumption and electronic waste pollution are huge issues when it comes to our ESG framework too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully, our guest today will be able to help us find more about AI in upcoming markets and its impact.
Yes, so our guest for this episode is the head of product and marketing at EverestLabs, Apurba Pradhan. EverestLabs is a firm based in San Francisco which focuses on AI-powered robotic solutions for recycling, and we're very excited to have Apurba here with us today to talk about how this works and what it will mean for ESG. Hi Apurba, how are you?
Hi, Martina. Nice to meet you, and I'm great. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So to start, it would be great if you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what your company, EverestLabs, what you do.
Sure. Yeah, I run product and strategy and marketing for a company named EverestLabs. We are an AI and robotics focused company that's solving problems for the recycling industry. So we use modern technology like AI and robotics to help modernize material recovery facility, or your commonly known as sort of recycling centers, to improve their recovery rates of capturing recyclable materials, while we help them reduce costs without a huge investment, without retrofitting their plants or costly upgrades. We're a Silicon Valley company. We were founded about 5 years ago. The first 3 years of that, we was pretty much heads down with R&D, developing the technology. And in the last year and a half, we've launched a product and getting great traction. So that's EverestLabs in short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And
to dive a little further, obviously in this podcast, we are really interested in ESG and emerging tech teams, and your company seems to be a perfect marriage of the two. So could you tell us a bit more how the AI-powered robots that you use can actually help to save energy and reduce waste?
Sure. Yeah. So we call our solution Recycle OS, and essentially what it does is it digitizes the recycling stream. So in a material recovery facility or recycling center, you have a conveyor with all kinds of material, mixed material that people and businesses put into their recycling bins. And today, largely the operation is very manual in sorting those materials. What we do is we use AI to recognize the images, identify those images, those objects in the recycling stream using computer vision and AI. It's a particularly hard problem to solve because, as you can imagine, when objects show up in a recycling facility, the variability and how they're presented to the AI is very, very diverse. And it's a hard problem. It's a huge mess, pun intended. And so it's a particularly hard problem to solve. We've got our AI trained on a data set of billions and billions of objects to be able to do this well. But once we capture those objects through AI, and we digitize sort of the data coming in, we can do a lot of improvements to the recycling facility and to the recycling process. So the first set of improvements we can do is provide a full visibility about how your plant is operating. So at each step of the sorting process that they go through, we can tell the recycling companies how well each of those steps are, and they can optimize those steps to be able to get better outcome. So automatically, just through the data, we can improve a plant efficiency about 30-40%. The next thing we do then is we use robotics to automate a lot of the sorting. So a lot of the sorting that you'll see is done manually today. There are people with hazmat suits picking through rubbish and pulling out recyclable material. And what we do is we propose robotics to do that task. Robotics are particularly well suited to for this task, and we automate that, and we typically get about 2 to 3x better performance in terms of pick volumes, pick accuracy, versus in a sort of manual sorting, because you can imagine these are hard jobs. People are standing on over a conveyor belt 8 hours a day picking objects. So these are really challenging things to do. And so robotics don't get tired. They work 24/7. And so basically we automate that using industrial robotics. And lastly, once it's gone through the whole sorting process, we can help create reports about what came in and what went out of the facility on an object by object basis. And this helps recycling companies meet their compliance and audit and regulatory goals that are in front of them. So yeah, we use technology, AI, and robotics to solve these kinds of problems.
That's great to hear real world examples of how AI is actually transforming operations like that for the better. That's really interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned ESG, and I think it's fairly obvious, but I'll mention it anyway. Is the more you recover, the less you have to produce, right? So if you recover a can of aluminum, you don't have to mine new aluminum raw materials to make new aluminum. So just a little fun fact: we've got robotic cells that in a year can recover about 7 million cans or bottles, whatever you program the robotics to do in a year. So that's roughly equivalent to about 1,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions saved from having to kind of produce that aluminum again. So it's quite a big impact just with one robotic cell, right? And so you can see, technologies like this can really make a difference to the whole climate and sustainability issues that we're facing.
My next question is about, in general, AI developments can cause a lot of concerns amongst working populations about skill replacements and job losses. And this has been particularly a hot topic in the news since, especially from the generative AI boom. So, focusing more on the social side, I would like to ask you, how do you maintain a positive working environment within your company while at the same time driving this AI and robotics tax revolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of different answers, right? In terms of our own staff and employees, we work on very sort of fundamental, deep technology development. So, there isn't really a risk of eliminating those jobs, right? Generative AI and other types of AI are doing, at this stage, doing fairly, I guess, lack of a better word, a fairly low-level tasks in these kinds of domains, and we use generative AI to make our QA better, to kind of help us write code and things like that. But it's not really replacing any jobs in the industry or the company that we're in. Everybody who's joined EverestLabs are super mission driven. We're working on making recycling work and make it more economical. So that's a kind of a great mission, and making a lasting impact on the planet. So there's really not an issue within the company itself. More along the lines of, okay, so we're using robotics to automate some of the tasks that were done manually in recycling facilities. If you look at that, that's I think the way to look at that is really, we're empowering recycling facilities, because these jobs that the robots are doing are not jobs that people are particularly good at or want to do. These are very high repetitive tasks in kind of harsh environments. Recycling companies have a hard time filling these positions. They have a hard time retaining people and doing these jobs. It's super difficult work, right? And so we're empowering these recycling facilities to automate some of these and use the people in more higher value, less demanding type of positions that they have. So by helping them save money on sort of the more repetitive, the more manual sorts of tasks, they can use the money that they've saved and the labor that they have to do more higher value tasks. So I don't see it as a way. I don't see this as sort of a negative in terms of replacing labor, or basically augmenting labor so that we do the things that people don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, the results are very positive, right? So when a recycling company installs a system like ours, they're getting payback within months. And they're able to do, recycling companies are not particularly, super profitable companies. They're working on slim margins, so they can use that money that they're saving on other operational improvements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for your insights here, and we can see how AI and robotics complement the work that your workers are doing. So yeah, thank you so much. I have one final question for you before you go, and that is, what advice would you give other companies when considering the use of AI to sustainable outcomes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I come from a product management background, so I think the only advice that I can really give is don't focus on the AI, focus on the problem. There's a lot of complicated, unstructured problems that the real world faces today. And so, the only advice I could give is understand the problem, and understand sort of the stakeholders who are involved in solving that problem. And if you can then go and create a large enough data set that's unbiased and basically a diverse data set that you can apply AI to solve that, then I think you're onto something. But I would start with the problem first, not with AI or the technology first.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, good point. Thank you. Thank you, Apurba, for those instant insights. They've been really interesting.
Thank you, Martina.
Thank you.
Well, Marty, that was a fantastic guest that you had today. Apurba's insights on AI and ESG were super interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think what he said about the sustainability of AI and its application was really relevant and important to keep in mind. AI definitely has an incredible potential for the future, but we need to make sure we use it in the right way, otherwise, it can cause problems.
And for our listeners who liked today's episode and wanted to find out more about ESG, check out our latest webinar, ESG 2.0 Decoding Decarbonisation, where our expert panel will discuss the economic and political landscape that's approaching on this path to global net zero.
On behalf of all of us from Thematic Intelligence, thanks for listening and see you next time.